we are unique of the states right now when it comes to issues like unemployment. And inside Texas, you have cities like Lubbock. And Lubbock is a full 2 percentage points below the state's unemployment rate, which is a percentage point and a half below what the national average is. So your employers know how to put people to work. You know, the nation lost millions of jobs since 2007, and Lubbock has more private sector jobs working today than it did when the recession started 3 years ago, back in 2007. Last year, added more jobs in sectors as diverse as professional services, manufacturing, energy. And you've done it the Texas way. You've done it with a clear vision, strategic investment, competing for employers, I should say those employers who are looking to expand, looking for that good business climate, that environment where they know that they can risk their capital and have a good chance to get a return on that investment. And I refer to that as doing it the Texas way. And there's really no magic to it. It's pretty straightforward. It's determination. It's hard work. And Texans are well aware that there aren't any shortcuts. That there's not a free lunch. Our state, it seems, is an island of level-headed thinking and a rising sea of red ink. It's flowing faster and faster, it seems, from Washington, D.C., and having an impact on each of you, either personally or through your business. That rising tide of red ink is cresting in places like Illinois. State leaders there just jacked up the income tax. That may make it, in the short term, a little easier for legislators. I don't know, I got an idea. If you voted to have a personal income tax in Texas, that would make it very easy on you back in Lubbock, Texas. I'm just thinking. But the fact is, there is no shortcut to easy street. You know, raising taxes may be a way that makes it a little easier in the short term for legislators from the standpoint of, the mainstream media wants you to think that there's this huge clamoring of people that want to see increased taxes. The fact of the matter is, we're going to do what you have to do in your private business when the resources turn down, when the economy turns down, and people quit buying more of what you produce, whether it's a service or a product. You make the hard decisions. You prioritize. And I don't get confused that the people of the state of Texas don't understand that. On election night, I think they sent a pretty clear message, Charles. I think they said clearly, we don't want you going to Austin, Texas, and spending more than what we have coming in. We don't want you raising taxes in the state of Texas. I think that was a clear and distinct message on election night. And, we did it in 2003. We did it in 2003. Pretty much the same situation from the standpoint of a revenue shortfall relative to the 2-year previous budget. And we looked at what we had coming in, and we prioritized, and we had a balanced budget. We resisted those pleas from those who wanted to raise a personal income tax, or just raise more money. They didn't really care where it came from. Just raise more money, spend more money. That will cure whatever the problems are out there. Over the past 10 years, I think it's been that same type of resolve that we've seen, is that we didn't spend all the money. We didn't go get into the rainy day fund that has allowed Texas to become, inarguably, an economic leader all across this country. There is a reason that we are the home to more Fortune 1000 companies than any other state in the Union. There's a reason we're the #1 exporting state in the nation. And it's because we created an economic climate in this state that said to people, whether they were small or medium-sized or big business owners, that you can risk your capital and know that you're going to have a better chance here than any other place in America to keep more of what you work hard for. I'm a big believer that is the most important thing that government does. Now, I will tell you, over the next 130 days, you're going to hear a lot of arguments that this is the most important thing that government does. And they talk about everything from health care to education to transportation infrastructures. And don't get me wrong, all of those are important. But the fact of the matter is this: if government cannot keep a climate where men and women who are small business owners and the ones that go out and risk the capital to create the job that in turn creates the wealth, if we do not keep that climate where people have the confidence that they're going to be able to keep more of what they work for, they're not going to risk their capital. That is the most important thing we do, Jim. And I'll argue with anybody, any place, any time, that that's the most important thing. I mean, there will be those in any of those different areas that we talked about who stand up and say, this is the most important one. What are you talking about? Economic development. My point is, if you don't allow those who are willing to risk their capital to feel confident that you're not going to overtax them, overregulate them, over-litigate, they're not going to risk that capital. And guess what? Then you're not going to have the resources of which to pay for those programs. It's how we work ourselves through this. I mean, I'm stunned that Washington, D.C. doesn't get that. That you cannot spend your way to prosperity, particularly when you're printing money, like they're doing up there, creating debt that our children are going to end up having to pay for. You know, I just touched on an issue I think is really important, and one that you're going to hear me talk about more over the course of the next days and weeks. And I said the issue over litigation. And back in 2003, we passed very sweeping tort reform, had powerful impact, particularly on the medical community. One of the reasons that you have seen the medical community in Lubbock, Texas, grow the way that it has grown, the reason you all have been able to lure those subspecialists into Lubbock and the surrounding area is because partly of that, and I give a great deal of credit to it, of being able to know that they're not going to be sued frivolously. And we need to expand that. We need to expand that concept even broader in the state of Texas. You know, and the fact is, this legislature, we're going to work together, and you all are going to have the opportunity to send a powerful message about even expanding our tort law protections, if you will, with greater accountability and transparency and efficiency. You'll hear the term loser pay talked about over the course of the next few months, and as we talk about how do we make Texas even more favorable from the standpoint of a businessman or woman. You know, victims of frivolous lawsuits shouldn't have to bear the financial burden of defending themselves. Those of you in small businesses understand that. Those of you in big businesses understand that. That responsibility should fall to the individual who brought the suit in the first place. You know, Texas is one of the few states who do not currently have an early dismissal option for obviously frivolous lawsuits, and I think we should. We also need to remain committed to preparing our students for those jobs of the future, and that is focusing on those STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. Really stay focused on those, because the fact is those are going to be the jobs that are the real building blocks of the future as we continue to compete for this global economy that we're in. So education and continue to make our state more viable from an economic standpoint. All of those are going to be issues that we face, and I also get kind of intrigued with some folks get all tied up in knots and twisted around the axle that we would want to make certain issues, put certain issues on a fast track, put them on the emergency call. I always get such a charge out of that you know, some people, oh my God, that's an emergency and this one's not. And it's like, yeah, we're gonna take it out, put it in front, and talk about these. I guess they think y'all can't multitask. I guess they think y'all can't, you know, talk about this when the same time you're doing budgeting, the same time you're doing these other things. And I guess we need to introduce them to some of you ladies who certainly know how to multitask. But the fact is, we have 140 days here. These members of the legislature, by and large, have all done this before. They do know how to work multiple problems at the same time, work this process to get our budget together, and then go back home and live under the laws that they pass. I happen to think that's one of the beauties of the state. I think it's one of the reasons that Texas does find itself in a relatively unique position economically and otherwise, is because we have a limited form of government. I'm thinking there are a lot of other states in the country that would love to have a limited form of government. You think they might in California or Michigan or Illinois? I'm thinking so. I'm not saying that they'd all want to stand up tomorrow and say, I want to be a Texan. I'm not going to, you know, that they sure might. There is a reason that there has been the population increase. There's sure been a lot of people voting with their feet that they want to be a Texan over the course of the last decade. And it hasn't been just because we got great weather here in August. People want to be a part of this great state. And I'll suggest to you that for 10 years we've been putting these ideas and concepts into place. And we've seen the result of them. They're not a, let's try this now. We've put them into place now for almost, well, it has been a decade. And the result is that people have moved here in record numbers. People have said, I want to be a part of Texas. When you listen to the inaugural speeches that were made over the course of the last 21 days, you heard individuals in a number of states talk about, we're going to go compete with Texas. Susana Martinez over in New Mexico said, we're coming after your jobs in Texas, Perry. Rick Scott said, from Florida, said in his remarks, we're going to go compete with Texas. It's a good thing. That's perfect. That's the 10th Amendment at work. And hopefully our friends in Washington, D.C. will respect not only our Constitution, but particularly in that Bill of Rights in the 10th Amendment where it talks about that the states should be the laboratories of innovation. And the states should be where those powers should reside. If this country will stand together, if we will together stand up and say, Washington, you know what? We do believe that the 10th Amendment says what it says, and that our founding fathers were truly passionate about not having some centralized government send a message of here's how you're going to do everything, but that we get to decide as individual states what's best for our citizens in the vast majority of the situations, whether it's delivery of health care, how we build transportation infrastructure, how we educate our children, I will suggest to you America becomes stronger because of that synergy. And hopefully Texas and Lubbock, Texas, with that independent spirit that is so powerful in that part of the world, together lead this country back into an economic prominence like we've never seen before. God bless you all, and thank you for letting me come and be a part of it.